Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday night. It is our night to talk about big things. And you know, if we're going to talk about big things, the man I want to be talking with is Dr. Drax. Good evening, Drax.
Hey, how are you, John?
I'm doing well.
Live from Chicago.
Yeah, that's a little bit different climate than you're kind of used to, I'm thinking, at this time of the year.
Yeah, except I come out here and it's 100 degrees. What the heck is up with that?
Well, and there's this thing in the air called humidity. I don't think you see much of that in your neck of the woods, do you?
No. And all of a sudden, great. I go from 115 in a dry sauna to 100 degrees in a wet sauna.
Yay. If you're watching out on Facebook, we're going to be kind of following the chat on the YouTube channel because it's tough to watch both. So if you want to go and be part of that chat and ask questions and such as we go through, please bounce over. You can go into the description of the video on Facebook Live and you'll be able to find the chat. Drax, we want to talk tonight about the idea of checking out, part of having a business plan and putting a business together is basically understanding your local market. And we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. So let's jump into that. I mean, one of the first things that we both know DJs like to do is they're going to try to find out what everyone else's price is around them and price themselves right below that. Obviously, that's not a good way to start. What would you recommend as a starting point?
Well, first of all, your business plan should define your price. It doesn't matter what anybody else charges. Your written business plan defines the price. That's based on what you've put together. Now, most people consider checking out your competition as getting a very high voice and calling them and saying, "Hello, I'm having a party. Could you tell me how much it would be for 4 hours?"
Did you call me last week? It sounds like
it. That's the biggest bunch of baloney, folks. You don't need to do that. You want to find out about your competition? Talk to other professionals. Talk to other event professionals. When you have a client call you and you're talking, ask them, have you talked with any other DJ companies in the area? And if they say yes, say, what did you like about them? What did they say? What did they not like about them? Because here's the thing to consider. If they've already met with 1 or 2 or 3 companies, they're obviously not necessarily satisfied with what was offered, right?
Yep, for sure. They keep going.
If they felt that they had a really solid presentation, they would be in the buying mode. They'd be, okay, this is rocking. This is what we want. Let's get it done.
Yep.
I mean, yes, there are the occasional ones that's going to go, oh, we found a guy for $300. Let's see if we can find one for $200.
Mm-hmm.
And I always typically ask if they met with other people. Well, when I get to what didn't you like? Was it their price, their service offerings? Was there just a disconnect in the personalities? Because that gives me insight about them.
For
and
sure.
when I record every meeting I have because it allows me to not be focused on notes, but focused on the meeting, the conversation. And the reason this is important is because you want to be in the moment with the person you're talking with, but still sentient enough to draw important pieces of information about your competitive marketplace. Another great way is to network with them, actually. Go to ADJA chapter meetings, network with them. Go to NACE meetings, ISIS or ILEA meetings. Can't call it ISIS now. And then talk with them openly. You don't really want to get into pricing discussions because then that opens up opportunities for somebody to claim collusionary behavior. But what you really want to talk about is the collegial areas that you offer. And what you may find is somebody you think is a competitor may actually be a great colleague.
Mm-hmm.
And as you develop the relationships with what were competitors, making them colleagues, now you have people that you can team up with. You have people that you can refer to in your book because you have an understanding of their service. This is a great reason to belong to ADJA and our local chapters is because you get to know others in your market, which what I did is I used it as making me the answer man. If I didn't feel that the client I'm talking to was a really good fit for my service, I would just say, I'm not sure this is really a good fit. I don't want to take your event and have it be a struggle for both of us. Would you mind if I shared your information about your event with a couple of my colleagues, which I think would do a better job for you? 2 things happen. The clients go, this person is actually referring me to another DJ.
Yep.
There's a part that makes them go, no, we want you, and they're going to buy. But there's also the part of, they go, he cares more about my event than any other DJ I've talked to. And if I refer them to a good quality colleague that I think would do a better job than I would, that does two things. They get a better event, and that colleague now really becomes a colleague because he goes, this guy's almost selling for me. Mm-hmm. And obviously there needs to be some degree of reciprocity, but when you do it this way, there becomes an openness. People start to share. They start to talk about things. This is what builds markets. This is how you build markets collegially. Because if you go into any other profession, plumbers get together and they talk about their market. They talk about different aspects. Contractors, various people, NACE people, caterers and off-prem people, they are all talking about what they do and talking together. They don't feel afraid. Rather, they feel empowered by the quality of the service that they offer. So this is a good way to do it. You've got a couple avenues. With this client approach, is it tells you lots of things. The other is when you go to NACE meetings, talk with other event professionals. Who else have you worked with in the market?
Yeah, for sure.
What was your experiences like? And you never want to talk down about that colleague to another event professional while trying to talk up your service. Rather, you want to use the concept of 2 ears, 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak and take in what they say. If they say, oh, it's been really good, he does this, you learn about that colleague. And you don't use this in a negative way, but you use it in a competitive way. Because now it opens up opportunities for you to see market segments that may be priorly underserviced or elements of performance that are not being performed well, which you could focus in on doing that really well, which now gives you a niche of where you're kind of the expert. You're the best in the business. And you haven't really had to say anything negative. You haven't had to do anything underhanded or conniving. You just finding out information and utilizing it in your plan to build your business. And honestly, I tell colleagues what I charge. If they call me, they talk to me. If they ask, I'll tell them. Mm-hmm. Why? Because if they really want to know, they're going to have a wife, a girlfriend, someone at work, at their day job, a cousin, a friend call you and shop you.
Yep.
I'd rather not waste the time being shopped. Mm-hmm. I'd rather just tell my competitors, this is what I offer. This is what I do. I'd rather have a working relationship where we can work together. If I get an event that's bigger than what I might be able to do or you might be able to do, we can team up and share the event. It becomes awesome. Curtis Whipple and I have done that a few different times in my market. And so it's a great opportunity for people to break down competitive barriers, develop collegiality, which ultimately builds your market. Make sense?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I like that when you were talking, the way you handled the discussion with the bride and such, and that's a great resource to be able to find out information without and generally getting accurate information from the couples. I want to go in a little bit different direction now, because there's a lot of times we're at a reception hall where there's multiple rooms and there's multiple DJs performing in those rooms. If people are having that experience, you want to go in there and connect with the other DJs in the other room. What are some kind of thoughts along that line of some do's and maybe some don'ts when it comes to going and seeing other DJs in their performance mode like that?
Well, there's a couple of things I forgot to mention, and that is you can also go to Wedding Wire and read the reviews of other professionals in your market. Those are free and available anywhere. You can read what other people have to say. If I was at a venue and I know there's 1 or 2 other event professionals, I'd probably go up to them while we're all setting up and say, hey, I'm Drax. It's great to meet you. Oh, hey, I've heard a lot of great things about you. Maybe we ought to get together and have lunch, talk shop. I started off in a collegial manner.
Mm-hmm.
Most DJs are up there. They're like, they're all guarded. They're all afraid. And it's like, no, I just want to be friends. I want us to have a collegial relationship versus a blood fight sort of thing where we have to undercut each other. Because if you know where I am and that I'm not going to undercut you, you know what my service is priced at, and we work collegially, we can help each other. If, it may end up essentially we'll talk shop about our events, and we may even, because I always videotape my events, and that provides a great way for me to review what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
What's really great is when you have a colleague watch you perform. Yes. I've grown some relationships with DJs where I wasn't working, and I've gone and attended their event and watched their performance and gave them notes. And they go, "You do that for me? Sure, why not?" Because the better you are in the market, or the better they are in the market, the better we all become, because this is the essence of a rising tide raises all boats. It's not just price. It's the more we help each other be better, the more clients get better events, the more their expectations are elevated, which benefits the professional over the person that is just interested in being a weekend warrior. And I don't mean in a part-time sense, but they're not interested in actually becoming better.
Yeah.
They're a biological jukebox. They show up, they press play, they do the chicken dance, they play the same songs the same way, they do everything the same. Everybody is the client, the bride and groom, yada, yada.
Yep.
And these are great ways, because when you do that and you get to know them, after when your event's in and you're loading out, it becomes hey, I'm kind of hungry. Let's go to Waffle House. Let's, maybe grab a sandwich and chat.
Yeah.
Sometimes they say, yeah, I'm too tired. And sometimes for myself, I'm too tired. I'll be coming out of a big event. I'm pooped. I'm going, or I'm still tearing down at 2:00 in the morning, and they're on their way out.
Yeah, young guys are like, woohoo, let's go. And then you're like, no.
Yeah, exactly. I'm too old for being out till 4 or 5. Not really. But so those are great ways to do it. And also, you go in, most of the venues will have semi-public bathrooms, if you will, kind of shared restroom space. It's very easy to be walking the hall, and you kind of hear the vibe of what's going on. You can kind of tell by the crowd noise what's going on in the next room. If it's subdued and it's 9:30, then maybe it's a real low-key event, or maybe the guy's just not connecting to his audience.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Oh, for sure.
And so when you do these things in a non-judgmental way, it provides the best opportunity for you to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of your colleagues / competitors, and to properly analyze your own strengths and weaknesses. And what you're looking for is opportunities, places that you can not exploit, but that's the word I'd probably pick. In the market space, you'd say, wow, there really isn't a high-end mitzvah DJ in this market.
Yep.
So instead of doing this level of mitzvah, I'm going to come in at this level. You've now defined a niche within the mitzvah part of your market space, and you can serve that customer that's really looking for more than what was delivered here. You're not hurting this guy, because he still does what he wants to do at that level, but you can go up.
Yep.
Or if the high-end guy is really rocking it and kicking it, you can say, I'm the mid-tier guy. I'm the guy that's going to be in the middle to serve that market. Because in the end of the day, your business is about money. It's not about price. It's about money. How much you end up with at the end of the year, it's your 1040 tax return.
Yeah.
That's what counts. And I'm not saying be cheap or any way below priced on your business plan, or not charging a professional fee, but rather look for market opportunities that are underserved that you can jump in and serve and make money from.
Mm-hmm. I think, and that's a good way to look at it. Is too many times we're going to go and try to do the exact same thing as what everyone else in the market is doing, and sometimes that area is really clogged.
Yeah. Here's an example. If you look at the price curve, a lot of people talk about the price curve. Well, the worst place to be on the price curve, in my mind, there's 2 places. The worst, absolute worst, is under the middle of the bell curve, because
those of
that's
you-
where everybody is.
Yeah, for those of you not familiar, they refer to that curve as a bell curve. So you're starting on, well, I'm probably going to be backwards, but anyway, you start on the low and then it goes up, and this is kind of your where most of the gigs are at that average level or that average price, and then as you go up, it kind of comes down and flattens out again. So bell curve. Okay, now the two spots, bad spots, go.
Well, the two bad spots to be in is at the extreme inexpensive part, because your margins are lower, because your costs aren't going to be appreciably lower. So the worst place to be is at the very low end price, because you're going to get beat up on price.
Yep.
You are totally going to be viewed as a disposable purchase, whether they use you or not. In the middle, in the bell curve, is better than the low end, but it's also the end where everybody is.
Yep.
So there's 10, 20 times more people competing right there in that cusp for the work. Now you're stuck in the position of, how do I sell that I'm really better than John when my price is only $50 more?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, let's be honest. If you're looking at two cars and one guy's telling you this car is 100 times better than car A, but it's $50 or $1,000 in the case of a car, you're going to go, two new cars and it's $1,000 difference. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take and move yourself down that curve on either side, there becomes more opportunity, because there's less people here at the higher price point, but not the peak or close into it. And the same on the other side where you're over that higher. But as you come down that side, there are less events, but there's less well, actually, I wouldn't even say there's less events. There's less competition.
There you go. Yep.
And so that's a great place to be. But you don't want to ever be in the position of having a great rate, but working 5 events a year. That is, and timeout, that's the wrong way to be.
Yeah, for sure.
You want to be in the place of maximum profit while you're working 42 events a year. That's my theme, is working. Because the majority of Americans work every week, and the majority of Americans do not get 10 weeks vacation. And the plan you and I are outlining gives every qualified professional 10 weeks vacation. 10 weeks vacation. I don't know about you, but when you had a full-time job somewhere else, did you get 10 weeks vacation?
Yeah, not so much.
Exactly. So with this, you get 10 weeks vacation, you make a boatload of money, and you're selecting a market with which you can dominate. And that's one of the key things, is to look for segments that you can dominate. And those come out with understanding event, type, price, and service. And then you want to own that space.
Yes.
And the way to own it is to understand what your competitors do.
Yeah, because it really, and probably the biggest thing is knowing what the competitors do. And my concern with it is that getting accurate information or semi-accurate information, because as we both know, DJs can change the story from moment to moment. And sometimes when there's been bad experiences, even those who have hired DJs will change the story from moment to moment.
Yep.
I mean, it's a struggle to get good, accurate information.
Well, and this is why developing collegial relationships with other event professionals and other DJ colleagues is really important, because the more relationships you have in the market space, the more accurate people need to be. For example, John, if you and I were in the same market and we both know that we both know Carol at the Gray Eagle Hilton, well, we both know we can't really blow smoke up the other's behind, because we both know that we both know Carol, and Carol knows what we do and how we do it. She's observed us. And so it's not as easy to come up with these wild stories. The best example is I'm a X $1,000 DJ, and in reality, they're working 3 events a year.
Yeah.
Or they're not really working 3 events at X $1,000. They're working 20 events or 30 events and a normal full calendar, but they're working at a rate far lower than you understand it to be or has been expressed. This is a good reason to talk about examination again of Wedding Wire than not other online review sites, because oftentimes dialogues between consumers start and they'll talk about what they paid for that service.
Yes.
And that's a consumer telling you what they paid for a service. And again, if you develop collegial relationships, the number one thing I tell everybody, and I know this part's a little self-serving, but if you're part of an ADJA local chapter, you have colleagues in your market that you see every month, that you network with.
Yep.
That this relationship building becomes such that it grows you to realize I only have to compete against me. I don't have to compete against the people in my market, really. I have to be able to compete for segments that are underserved or that are served poorly. And as I do that, I now become confident in my abilities because I'm one of only one or two people playing in that market.
Yeah.
And in every one of those segments, there's almost always going to be more well-paying events than there are people qualified to do them. So if I have a colleague and we're both kind of in that space, it's good for us to work together, because if he knows I'm going to refer him, he's going to refer me. We don't really feel the need to have to go after each other. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Well, and,
go ahead.
And so, getting to the truth is using multiple sources. Scriptural things say, out of the mouth of two or more witnesses, all truth is established. Well, you get the Wedding Wire, the Knot. You've got local vendors and venues. You're getting a couple of different data points that should give you an accurate picture of what your competition does, how they do it.
Yeah. That's one definite way. Then I want to kind of jump back where you're talking about the networking and such within a chapter when you get a group of DJs, because in a chat room here, Matthew's mentioning that he's hosting a DJ network barbecue for his for some DJs and such that a bunch of them
awesome.
look like they had a day open. I mean, that's where it starts, is building those relationships and connecting. And once you get a group of people who start to invest time in getting to know each other, you end up with relationships, and you find out that, hey, first off, I kind of like this person. And before long, this group of people can develop into something bigger, and it will really help to improve their local DJ economy by, as you mentioned before, that rising tide.
Exactly. And, Matthew, after you've had your barbecue and your luncheon, getting people together, the next great thing is to contemplate contacting me and starting to develop a local chapter in your market, because it brings together people and it brings together opportunities to get together more frequently, one night a month. And then you're starting to plan great educational content, which helps the participants actually grow their business, not just get together for pizza and talk about events, but actually talk about challenges and problems. I'm here in Chicago to speak to the ADJA chapter here about Power of 42, the kind of the expanded version of what we're doing in segments across this show, but also to network with other professionals, to be able to say, this is a challenge I find in contracts. Mm-hmm. How do I develop a really solid contract for ADJA that runs for the entire United States, let's say, or how do I better utilize search engine social media? How do I better utilize search engines to get my website placement? How do I better utilize social media to make the maximum amount of it? Learning about social media is a conversation, much like a meeting, a phone call, or a website. That's kind of an illuminating concept to think about, is how do we take and make social media productive? Because do you think social media is a productive way to spend your time?
For us, that's what we do for a living.
Exactly.
I mean, that's it. There's different levels of success, different things you can do with it, but it's here. It's not going away.
And I've watched over the years as you've taken Disc Jockey News from a paper to an online presence, to an online presence with a paper, to an online presence with a paper and a video presence and expanded it to where, oh, we're actually covering a diverse number of aspects of the entertainment industry, such as you're at a large number of shows that are not necessarily just DJs, but LDI and the NAMM show and other events that broaden the Disc Jockey News network into a broader social platform. And I've watched your social media interaction rise with the level of content you've provided. So that's an advantage of networking, is you can get together with somebody. Someone in your market will be good at a number of things you're not. And when you're sharing together, you're learning together, and then you're now growing together, which now changes markets.
Yeah.
Every place we've had a chapter, market prices have gone up significantly, nearly double or more. So Matt, that's what I would tell you, Matthew, is contemplate getting involved, building an actual regular networking group. Obviously, we have a great roadmap with ADJA, and we think it works well. But regardless what you do, maintain those networking relationships, because those are keys to bringing collegiality to your market and to changing price points and service index.
Yeah, I think Matthew's from Utah, and he must either he attends or he is a member of the ADJ.
Matthew Hamblin, I bet.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Matthew. Hey, it's good to see you.
Drax doesn't have the chat up, guys, so don't pick on him because he's not seeing it. He's at a hotel, and if we can keep his video going and his audio, we're happy. Hotel internet can be sketchy.
Yeah, but anyway, Matthew is an awesome, actually entertainer and a great guy. I didn't realize that's what he was talking about. Yeah, I actually followed on Facebook that they got everybody together for a great networking event, and that was spectacular what you did, and as well as what you talked about it online, socially, because it let others in the market space that didn't participate see, wow, they're getting together. These guys should be hating each other. They should be having separation, and you guys were coming together.
Nice.
Fabulous, Matthew.
Yeah, very nice. I mean, overall, I think that's probably, and not that wasn't to be a pitch for ADJA, but
sure.
As we're talking about it, I mean, there's a logical progression, and I think that logical progression is, you're eventually going to get to that point where you are networking and you are basically, I don't want to say it, making it sound like it's a marriage or something, but you're kind of doing life together as a group of professionals.
Yeah. You are, and that's what is great about local chapters is the consistency of the networking, the consistency of content. Let's just say you're starting with you and two other DJs that you see at event venues, and you work together in different rooms, and you develop that collegiality, even if there's no organization. If you're just getting together and having lunch once every couple of weeks, or having breakfast after the event, sharing notes and ideas, it's tremendously valuable. It's one of the best ways to change your market that I can think of.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where a lot of it started, and it blossomed from there. I think really you look at almost everything that's happened within the DJ industry started by a couple of guys having coffee or a couple of gals having coffee, as people having coffee like that. And next thing you know, things like Mobile Beat have come out of that. You've got the associations have come out of that. Really, everything has come out of just reaching out across the table and saying, "Hey, let's go have pie after our gigs tonight, and I'll buy."
Yep, and that is a great point, John. Is everything good starts with small steps. There was a movie years ago called Contact with Jodie Foster and can't think of the actor, but he was telling his daughter, who was very interested in space, the best way to see things in space was by small moves, adjusting the telescope very small amounts, and you would eventually see the great big picture. Same is true with our businesses and with our industry. Some of the biggest things in our industry have happened by small moves, small conversations. And those things lead to, maybe we should get together and do this. I mean, this conversation we're having, this series of presentations, was from a reasonably innocuous post I made on Facebook a year ago.
Mm-hmm. And
you say, "Hey, I think that's kind of cool. We ought to talk about that." And I said, "Yeah, I think it's great."
Yeah, And that's what brought us to where we are working through and discussing things. I should put that. I need to put that link in the description below. So, before we're going to wrap up here in just a few minutes, if a person was reaching out to a younger DJ, because most of our viewers are more 5 to 10 year experience, but if they're reaching out to a younger DJ, is there something that you would recommend, a way to do that so they're not alienating, so they're not offending, but yet could kind of bring, help to get to know them without building that wall?
I think the first thing is be very complimentary. If you've walked by their event on the way to the bathroom and you heard a really great transition, or you heard a great mix, or you overheard a really good introduction of a bride and groom or a presenter, compliment them that night. Say, I was coming back from the men's room and I was listening to your transition, these two songs. I just wanted to tell you that was really a great way you put those together. I would have never brought those two songs together. It's fabulous. And say, I'm always up to meeting my colleagues and sharing a Coke or having some conversation and seeing how we can help each other be better than we presently are. Most of the time, don't come off arrogant like you have all the answers. It's difficult, especially as you get older and you've had 15, 20, 25 years of experience. I've learned a ton of things from younger guys.
Oh, yeah.
And I did that because, they thought that I knew a lot more, and perhaps I did about a lot of things. They knew more than I did about reaching a market segment. They knew more about things that they were interested in and that were important to them. And if I tried to steamroll them with what I thought was important, I didn't learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing is built, no relationships built. But by listening to them, I learned. I grew.
And that listening is so critical. And that's my thought on that is, when I'm talking with a younger DJ that I'm meeting like that, it's to ask questions, ask them, have interest in them, and make it a genuine thing that's not basically fake. Because they're doing, as you said, they're doing things in areas that you and I wouldn't think of at times, because it's just coming at it from a different generational standpoint.
Exactly. And the challenge is to be conversational, be inviting.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times younger guys will probably have heard of you if you're one of the bigger players in the market, and they may be a little intimidated. Whereas if you're really friendly and you're shaking their hand and you're having great conversation, and you say, hey, I'd love to get together and talk shop with you. You're like, well, why? What are you selling? No, I'm not selling a thing. Just, I'd like to see what your thoughts are as someone kind of new into the game, because I figure there's things we can both learn.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure there's things you're thinking about. Did I do that right? Did I not? That a more experienced DJ could offer. And there's things that you can learn from a younger DJ with less experience about why they're approaching something a given way.
Yeah, because we, unfortunately, even though we've been in it for a few years, we don't have all the answers, I think, is the way it goes. Drax, we should wrap things up here. The ADJ.org, I've got that down in the description below. I've got the link to our past business one. There's one in there. I believe it talks about our 80% booking, and that we referred to that in tonight's show. That's probably one of the cornerstones of a lot of the things we're talking about. So go check that video out if you haven't done that. Drax, now you're in Chicago. Let's talk about that for a couple minutes, and we got to wrap things up. What do you guys? Yeah. What do you have going on in Chicago?
I'm just here in Chicago to speak to our local ADJA chapter, and the way it turned out, I had the chance to be a part of a networking group with a dozen of my friends that are mostly ADJ members, to talk about business, talk about the industry, talk about things we think the industry should do, and it just worked out well. Yeah, the idea being that we could get together and just as a group of colleagues and talk about how we see things, what we find in our business, what we find as a struggle.
Nice. Those are I enjoy those types of meetings where you get this small, intimate gathering where basically for a couple of days you're almost like living together, doing life together.
It really is. I mean, there's like 10 of us. And so it's just really hanging out and talking and, some open Q&A, a little round tabling of how do we solve that problem?
Yeah.
How do we get people to engage in our industry in a meaningful way? That's one of my things I'm coming to is how do we, because I'm at the point, I want to bring this industry together. I want to bring ADJA and everything I can with MobileBeat and other companies together to do what we can to make the most cohesive industry. So I'm saying to other friends, what would be a reason someone would not want to be coming together? Mm-hmm. And this applies to our own markets, because if we don't want to come together in our own markets, we really can't come together as an industry collective.
Yeah, I think that's that whole unity and to be able to come in and have a common goal. Of course, we're not seeing that in this year in our presidential election, national, or anything to that effect. But that's another story.
Yeah, I mean, but the concept of it is presently America is this far apart, and 50 years ago, our country was this far apart.
Yeah.
Now, they still thought they were way polar opposites, but largely, if you look at administrations from 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, there was much more working together by those people, and that's because socially and philosophically, they were closer together. The parties today have moved them so far out that nobody seems to really want to say, we should work together. We got to be in the middle.
Yeah.
So, as an industry, we've got to be in the middle together. We got to realize, much like America has to see that we are equally yoked. Here's the thought. Today we have white Americans and black Americans. We have police and non-police. But on September 12th, 2001, we weren't Republicans and we weren't Democrats. We weren't whites or blacks or Asians or Hispanics. We were just Americans.
Yep.
And as an industry, we have to come together that way. Our country has to come together, because that's what produces the future of an industry, is when we're more focused on our collective as the entirety versus our own little turf that we want to hold.
Mm-hmm.
For my politics for today, but
yeah, no, but that's very true. Good advice, good thoughts there. That's what we need to strive for surely. So, gang, we're going to wrap things up. We'll be back in about 20 minutes with Brian Red with our music show. Tonight we're going to be talking about class reunions. Yay!
My 40th was just about 6 months ago.
Yeah, we're going to dig into that. That was a couple of requests for getting into that, because a lot of people have class reunions in August. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. Drax, thank you very much for being on. You guys can check djntv.com. There's a schedule, and at the bottom of the page, we've got the things, and we have the schedule of when we'll be doing our next business chat.
When are we doing our next one? It's on the schedule?
Yeah, it's on the schedule. I wonder if I can pop out to it, if it's going to load quickly here without interfering. But we've got a couple more that we're going to be doing, I think. But what's going to end up happening here for the next is either Drax is traveling, or I'm traveling, or we're both traveling for we've got kind of a crazy. We've got August 9th and August 23rd. So right before DJ Expo and right after DJ Expo.
It's going to be awesome.
So we're looking forward to that. So Drax, once again, thank you for your time, and everyone, thank you for watching.
Thank you so much.